My name is Martin Bach, and I'm from San Jose, California, actually a town called Milpitas. I was born and raised there all my life. I grew up there, K through 12, and I really never left the Bay Area. I have traveled all over, but I kind of stuck around the Bay Area, living all the way from San Francisco and then now coming back to San Jose near my hometown. I grew up in a suburb, very, middle income, just a nice neighborhood in Milpitas. Both my parents were around. I had a lot of family support, an older brother and a younger sister, and loving parents, both my mom and my dad and my grandma and, uncles, aunts. And so I did grow up in a very good, stable household all my life, and surrounded by a lot of friends in just the neighborhood. I grew up with a lot of just different people from different cultures. Just a very nice, peaceful, joyful, happy upbringing. So as a kid, I was pretty normal, just very good kid, I would have to say. Maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, I don't know. But I think for the most part, I was a pretty good behaved kid. I had bad moments, but I think at some point, it was actually at age 12 when, everything changed, really. I did start turning into, a pretty bad kid. Naughty, wild, whatever you call it, but just kind of fell away and got into a lot of trouble. My parents got divorced when I was about 11 and a half, around 12 years old, and so that had a huge negative impact on my life, right? My life just went from happiness, joy-filled, peace, to almost like a nightmare, right? My dad having to leave the house, no longer living with us, and it kind of just ripped my life in and just put it in shambles. I held it together because I was still going to school and doing the things I needed to as a kid, but psychologically I'd have to say it really took a toll on me, because without a father figure around the house, and I was confused, and I felt that love kind of leave the home, and at age 12 I couldn't process it fully, but I was entering the adolescent years, right? And age 13, I would have to say that, I don't know, how bad was I? What kind of things I did? I've done everything. It started out kind of in phases, if you will, but basically, started acting out, wanted attention. I would have to say, probably didn't do as well as in school, cheated on tests, right? And started lying and stealing and getting into fights, actually, as I entered into junior high. That was probably my young 13-year-old mind in the way of actually having an outlet for what I was feeling and going through. But I think just acting out, what else? Doing things like smoking cigarettes and eventually doing drugs, doing a lot of different kinds of drugs. I experimented a lot and got caught up in that lifestyle, right, where I hung out with, and I knew a lot of, just, the wrong crowd, right, if you will, the crowd that our parents always warn us about, but, I started seeking them because that's where I felt comfortable. I felt almost loved, in a way, or accepted, at least, because a lot of, people who were, part of the bad crowd or the wrong crowd, I found out later on in life that they were actually the ones that came from broken families as well. So You know, I just naturally kind of gravitated towards that bad crowd and started doing a lot of bad things. For me, I was just living life as I knew the only way I knew how, which was, enjoying life, getting all the pleasures out of life, fulfillment out of life, you know, doing whatever I wanted to make me happy, or to help me, experience, love or joy, right? And that was what was missing out of my life, right, at a very young age, as it got interrupted. So, going into my 20s, I mean, I actually went to college. Went to San Jose State at first, and got a actually ended up joining a fraternity there, and so during those years, as I was entering, the age of 21, I did go to a lot of parties. Alcohol came into the picture, definitely drugs still, a lot of different ones. Anything that helped me feel, I guess, maybe escape from deep-rooted pain in my heart, or help me experience love or joy, even if it's a brief moment. I would do so, and I would seek for it, right? And so, yeah, very wild, very, very much a party type of person. Hung out with that type of crowd. It was a miracle that I actually graduated college, but I still did, eventually. And I got a business degree in computers, information systems, and I went on and I went on living life, right? I mean, I started working, and well, my pursuit became, money, right? And still partying and going out and socializing. I have a lot of friends, so I'm a pretty sociable type of person, and so that never really stopped. But in well into my 20s, mid 20s, even into my late 20s, I was still, going out there and kind of seeking, anything that would help me get this fulfilling feeling of accomplishment or success, whether that's money, whether that's job, whether that's career, whether that's partying, whether that's hanging out with friends or traveling, or relationships, or alcohol or drugs. Really, it's like YOLO, right? I mean, you only live once. I mean, it's a terrible saying now that I think about it, but I mean, that's how I live my life. Live fast, die young. That type of attitude. I thought that I was God. I mean, to put it as bluntly as possible. I mean, this shirt, it's totally different now, of course. But at the time, I mean, I didn't think about Jesus or God or religion or church or anything like that, really. I thought I was God, to be pretty quite honest. It was because I grew up not really being, I guess, financially supported, throughout my college years, and so I did it all on my own. Didn't matter. I had, friends that weren't really into college or weren't studious. I didn't really have a background that supported going to college. I would say, yeah, some of my friends did definitely go to college, and I did have some really smart friends. But at the time, I was hanging out with kind of, the wild crowd, right, who wasn't really into it. So, against all of these different odds, I put myself through school. I paid for it, on my own. And so after I graduated, I felt like I did it on my own. I didn't need anybody, to tell you the truth. I mean, I really didn't need anybody to help me, support me financially or spiritually or emotionally. I developed this very, I guess, this attitude, prideful attitude, that I did it all on my own. Look at me, you know? And so the rest of my life, I control my destiny. You know, I'm God. I don't need anyone else. So that's just kind of the way I live my life, as I create my own destiny. And if I fail because of me. And if I succeed, it's because of me. So that's the type of prideful attitude that I carried on throughout the rest of my life. You know, I lived life for myself, as I had mentioned. Job, career, money, success, fortune, fame, even. You know, I wanted money. Money was my main focus in life. I wanted a really good job and career. Being here in the Bay Area, that's what I was surrounded with. I have a lot of successful friends, and I've seen what success can do, and I wanted a piece of that. You know, I wanted to get rich, you know, because having money and a great career and job, it would finance all of my vices, so to speak, or all of the things that I wanted to do in life to get that sense of fulfillment, whether it's you know, traveling the world, or you know, buying expensive clothes and having nice fancy things. That's what drove me, right? And so, you know, during that pursuit, because that's what was making me happy, temporarily, of course, but that's what I was chasing, you know. And I continued to do so. I was working really hard. I was working at a company that was paying me pretty well, and I had a team of 14 people, and I was traveling a lot. I was working hard. I was working 6 to 7 days a week at a very big company. There's like 130,000 people at this company, and I was doing well. I was on my way up to becoming like director level, and again, I was chasing that money, right? That job, success, career, and in doing so. One day, it was actually a May 15th, 2015, is when I woke up on a Saturday and I had a severe migraine and a headache, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I just knew that I had a migraine. It was probably because I was sick. I was working through a flu at the time, and at the moment I didn't realize this, but I actually called an Uber to get myself to a hospital, because I was debating, should I go to Walgreens and get over-the-counter headache medicine, or, well, I mean, I'm working for one of the top software hardware companies in the world. They have the best healthcare, so why not just go to the hospital? They'll give me the strongest medicine. So I called an Uber, and I ended up in the hospital. But what I didn't know at the time was I ended up in the ICU, or the intensive care unit, and I was there for 9 days. And I had a intracranial brain hemorrhage, where basically a blood vessel just burst in my brain, and the bleeding was on its way of turning into an aneurysm. But I survived, you know. So after 9 days, I got out of the hospital, and I was during my 3 month of rehabilitation, and kind of waiting for the healing to happen, because I was getting severe headaches and I couldn't hear, and my vision was impaired, and I was learning how to kind of re-enter a state of 100% health. It was in that moment that it was actually not God who I turned to. I thought I was lucky, actually. I just thought I dodged a bullet, right? Oh, I get a second chance at life, yay, so I better go out and celebrate, and so, but at the same time, two of my best friends, both named Chris, actually. One is the Japanese guy. His cousin had passed away when we were in our 20s, 23 years old, from the same exact thing that happened to me. And I was, during my rehabilitation in my bed, I was reflecting on this, that he didn't make it. He actually passed away at age 23. And I saw that devastating his family, right? And that hit me, but also my other best friend Chris, who is Vietnamese, his cousin, just 2 years before it happened to me, he was 33 at the time, it happened to him, same thing, intracranial brain hemorrhage, but he didn't make it, nearly as successful as I. He, even to this day, he can't really talk, can't walk, can't feed himself, can't go to the bathroom, can't change, can't do the basic things that you and I can do. He had to move back with his parents. He was the only child, by the way, and engaged to be married at the time, actually. All of that, just pretty much gone in an instant through this tragedy, and I reflected on that, both really good kids, good people, younger than I, and it happened to them, and as I was reflecting, like I just felt guilty and shameful that I lived a life where I was a bad kid, just pretty much did whatever I wanted, very selfish, and but here these kids are really good, as I knew it, actually, and lived good lives and were good kids, and but one's not here and one is paralyzed, maybe even perhaps the rest of his life, right? And so I felt guilty. I felt like, why did I live? Why am I getting better? Like, I was on my way to being 100% back to normal, which, as you could tell, I gained all my senses back, and during that time, I was looking for answers, and so I turned to Buddha. Why I chose Buddha was because I wanted mental and physical healing, right? And I also wanted spiritual healing. I knew that I had a past that was filled with pain, so I wanted that healing. So I went and I sought after like this emotional, physical, spiritual type of healing. And well, from everything that I've heard all my life is Buddhism, right? Buddhism is the natural choice. And so I started picking up books on Buddhism and spirituality, and and books that even the Dalai Lama had written, and I decided in my studies and in my teachings of the Buddha that I realized that's when, well, there's a country in Asia. Well, there's many countries in Asia that is very heavily Buddhist influenced, and one being Thailand. They're the #1 Buddhist influenced nation in the world, and then #2 is Cambodia. #3 is Burma or Myanmar. And so I decided, well, what better way to learn how to become Buddhist, than go to the actual source, right? And so I said, I'm going to go to Thailand. 95% of the country is Buddhist. So I said, okay, as soon as I get better, I'm gonna go and live there, and which I did. I lived in northern Thailand for several months actually, and that's when I really started becoming Buddhist. Every day, chanting, praying, meditating, talking to Buddha, praying to Buddha, right, and going to all the temples. I must have went to over 100 temples all across northern Thailand, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai. That's where I was living, and going into Myanmar, and going to all the temples and doing all the chants and putting the flowers and the statues, bowing to the the statues of Buddha, and really just being immersed in that practice.